Welcome, everybody, to the Dylan Jones workshop announcement Zoom call. We're going to be announcing the date, time, and everything you're going to be in store for Dylan's upcoming workshop. So, primarily, we're going to start out. Most of the people who are on here probably know who Dylan is, but just in case someone came over from the TWC list that doesn't know who Dylan is specifically, I want to start out with just who is Dylan Jones. So, Dylan, can you just go ahead and give us a little rundown on kind of how you became a trainer and what you've kind of been up to more recently?
Yeah, I'm a pet dog trainer in upstate New York. I'm near Syracuse. I've been training dogs going on, it's got to be getting close to 7 years now. I've had my own business for about three, and I entered the TWC certification course a couple years ago or so. And with my primary focus since certifying being with dealing with pet dogs with extreme behavioral issues like aggression, reactivity, and that sort of thing.
Cool. And can you just like expand a little bit about kind of the stuff you've been working on most recently, how we kind of came about with the idea of doing this specific workshop and just talk a little bit about that stuff.
Yeah, I mean the conception of the idea for me, like when I certified, I knew coming back home, like I there are two things that I want to do. I want to deal with dogs with behavioral issues, and I want to get involved in shelters. And one of the interesting things being around sport training for the first time, like the course is the first time I've been exposed to it, and seeing the intensity and like the quest for knowledge and the experimentation on that field, it really got me thinking, like, why do I not see this in the pet world? And once I got involved with shelters, I saw sort of the same thing where you don't have an effort issue. Like there are people that are trying really hard, but there's not a lot of like asking questions and trying new things. It seems like with shelters, there's sort of like a wall where new information doesn't really get in. So through training without conflict, I just started thinking like what does Ivan say? If there are dogs involved, there's behavior. And if there's behavior, it's all relevant to the stuff we learned in the course. So as soon as I certified, I started getting involved in shelters, and it's been something that I've been doing regularly ever since.
Yeah, and can you just talk a little bit about like how the stuff that you've learned through TWC has kind of helped you make big progress with some of the shelter dogs you've encountered, how you've been able to get some of these dogs who are considered unadoptable adopted, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, we could go off for days, and I mean that's literally what we're going to be doing at the workshop. But to take like a higher level look at it, something that Ivan pushes all the time, it's if you're training, it doesn't really matter what field you're in. You should be going in thinking, what is the goal? What are we trying to accomplish? So when I took that question and I started getting involved in shelters, it comes down to two things for me. It's getting the dogs out of the shelter and then keeping them out. So then at that point, you take those two questions and you start to break down individual dogs and what's going on with them. And it became obvious to me that from shelter to shelter, with all the rotating cast of workers and volunteers, there are a lot of really good people dealing with the same problems that really two dog trainers. I kind of had this thought. There was one day when there was a dog, um, I'm thinking of off the top of my head, supposedly just out of control, totally insane. Everyone's scared of him. And it's like this dog within 20 minutes is like saying hi to people. And I'm just thinking, where are all the trainers? Like, why are dogs like this getting mischaracterized? They're not getting evaluated. They're not getting these basic help efforts to help them out. Why are they getting locked up, and why are they inevitably getting put down in a lot of cases? And I feel like there needs to be, like, I want people to be interested and get involved and start bringing some of these ideas, even things that to dog trainers. I know a lot of you guys in the call are probably trainers, things that we sort of take for granted in a way. Like, yeah, play with dogs. Like, yeah, stop bad behaviors. These are things that to a lot of people in shelters, especially volunteers that are struggling with big, powerful dogs that might be repressed and frustrated, it's like mind blowing to them. So it became obvious to me that we need to get the word out on these things.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I mean I think anybody who's been even just like on Instagram seeing some of the like rescue or shelter Instagram channels and even some of the trainers who work with some of these dogs who claim that they're unadoptable or untrainable or whatever. it's a big problem in the industry especially in the United States with the amount of dogs that end up in shelters and rescues. So can you talk a little bit about just the progress that you've been able to make already with getting certain dogs adopted and how Play and TWC helped you with that?
Yeah, it all starts with the evaluation and understanding, like thinking from the dog's, considering the dog's perception, because the shelter environment, I mean, regardless of how it's set up, ultimately you've got a dog that could be in a really desperate situation, and his mind is sort of in flux, like he's not really sure what's going on. He may be afraid and unsure of his surroundings. Dogs are sort of set up in that way to be bad versions of themselves. And I find that if you go in and you just see unwanted behavior, big powerful dog, oh, he's showing typical bad body language signs. I need to move on to the next dog, and just, that's, there's just nowhere to go with this. It's a really reductive and in some ways I think lazy approach when you consider, dude, this dog, he may have just gotten abandoned by his owner. Like this may be a dog that was in a hoarding situation, and he, like, the first interaction he had with people outside of his owner was an animal control guy wrestling him into a truck. And being able to approach the dogs as conscious, emotional beings and truly give them a chance to show who they really are, that's the first step. And a lot of these dogs, unfortunately, don't get a chance for that.
Yeah, and I think one of the interesting things that because obviously we announced the waiting list a while ago, and I've had some conversations with people about kind of what the workshop will be about, and I'm sure you have had conversations with people as well. But I think one of the interesting things is this workshop is not necessarily going to be just about like this is how you play with a dog, this is how you train a dog, this
Right.
is how you deal with issues. We're actually looking to improve the state of like rescues and shelters all around where it's not just about this factory of getting dogs in and out and churning out adoptions and stuff like that. It's like, how do we really change like the dogs who, let's say they are the dogs who stay there for an extended period of time, 6 months, a year, 2 years, however, everybody hears those stories of these dogs who have been there for 3, 4 years. How do we, number one, get those dogs adopted sooner? But while those dogs are in the shelter, how do we improve their chances of succeeding when people come in? So, do you want to expand a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, to those questions, those are the crucial questions. The big advantage we have is that the people in shelters largely want to answer those questions. It's almost like there there is this hunger to really change things and try a different strategy. And I see it every time, like I'm coaching shelter volunteers. There's almost like this, yo, seriously, I can just like take the dog out and play, like for real. That's not going to make him aggressive. Or I can walk him on a long line and allow him to sniff. Like these are just like basic things to us, but there are things that oftentimes people just don't even know they have the capability of doing or the permission to do. And yeah, play is a huge part of it, the socialization aspect. But again, it's like what is the goal? We're trying to get the dog to be in an emotional and behavioral and social state that he attracts a family that's looking to adopt a dog. And when he goes home, he's not so shell shocked from bad experiences back at the shelter that he just has like a meltdown. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of the dogs that I deal with in my training business, behavioral cases, like I get them all the time. They're dogs that were from shelters that there's just no question whether it was an extended stay or a short stay with the nature of their issues. They accumulated some form of behavioral damage while they were at the shelter. And had conditions been a little bit different back then, they probably wouldn't have even had to come to me. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of it is for sure preventative, but also too, I'm sure inevitably we'll get into how to intervene when a dog is already past that threshold where people would say he's, like you were saying, unadoptable or too far gone. Like we can go both directions on that.
Right, and I think one of the other things too is it's not just about like again, we it, sometimes sometimes I think that like when we have these conversations, especially with like the way we want to like affect the world, it's like with TWC, it's not just about, you know, it's not just about creating certified trainers. It's not just about creating dog training businesses that are successful. It's like we're literally trying to change the way that people train dogs around the world, the way people approach dog training around the world. And with this workshop, I think that we're literally trying to improve the state of not just the dogs in shelters, but the shelters themselves and their skills and their knowledge in getting dogs adopted, but also making sure that the dogs that are in their care for whatever amount of time that they're there are in a place where they are healthy, happy, and actually present a better picture for adoption. Because one of the things that we've talked about um, is these dogs who are in shelters and then people come to visit and these dogs have just been literally in their kennel for however long, never had any type of exercise, never had any type of whatever, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, here's your person, and then it just becomes a disaster from minute one. And something that we kind of want to improve is even that stuff. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, to your point about trying to improve the skill sets or give more options to people that are already in the shelters, I would like to add on to that. I also want to talk about why it would be beneficial, especially for someone that's interested in getting into dog training, why you should be at a shelter. That so just like as a side tangent, like that's something I want to go into extensively because I believe whether you're an aspiring trainer, you're a volunteer that's walking dogs that wants to get into training, or if you're somebody that already has a training business and wants to get more reps, the dog shelter is like the ultimate experimentation playground for training dogs. And the expectations aren't crazy because you're not dealing with a client, you're just dealing with dogs that need attention anyways. Um, so yeah, again, like it just comes back to your question, the focus on the goals versus just maintaining the status quo. Because a lot of times I see if I get a call about a dog that's been in a shelter for a long time and he's kind of like disassociated, he's not interested in people, or in extreme cases, like people are afraid of him and there's only two people in the building that'll handle him. A lot of the times people fall into a rut where they're content with just keeping the dog alive. So you get these dogs that have been at the shelter for 6 months, a year and a half, dogs that end up being there for over half their lives, most of their lives, a lot of the time. And no one steps forward and asks the question, hey guys, like, what are we doing to actually get him out of here? It almost seems like it's this unspoken thing where, and people that are involved in shelters will know what I'm talking about. You have the dogs that are the lifers, and it may not be a spoken thing where everyone says he's done for, but everyone just kind of accepts that he's not going anywhere and there's nothing to be done. And I don't think that's acceptable. And I think that focusing on the core concepts that we're going to be covering is a good way to give those dogs a shot when people had written them off. And this happens, I see this all the time.
Yeah, 100%. And I think just even as simple as like some of those dogs who have been there for a long time, how do we get them from where they're at now to presenting a picture? Like I think that like really we're going to try with this workshop to present an all-encompassing picture where it's like, okay, we have these dogs who are in shelters, how do we improve their life, how do we improve the shelters, but at the same time, how do we even it's I don't necessarily want to call it marketing, but it's like, how do we present a picture outwardly, whether we're using social media, whether we're using Facebook or like whatever, newspapers, how do we present a picture of this dog that A gets a person that wants to come see them, and B, that dog is able to present their best self when they're there for that. And how do we prepare the dog on that day that he or she gets adopted, that they're going to have success when they go to the home?
And it's not, and in a way that's not a marketing gimmick. It's not a false representation of the dog. No, truly, like we can just take a dog out and play with him, turn on the camera, and this is who he is. Underneath whatever was going on, the kennel anxiety, the stress, growling at kennel techs through the fence, like this is the true nature of the dog when you strip away all of the problems. And yeah, I mean, recording training is a passion of mine as well. And absolutely, there's a severe lack of that in the shelter world. You get a lot of like pictures and you hold the treat, the dog sits and looks up. But like, what if you showed those dogs on a trip in town and they're doing obedience, they're playing, like they're meeting other dogs, they're meeting people. That's a dog that you're looking to adopt. Like, hey, he's already like he's prepared, you know?
Yeah, totally. And I think one of the core concepts of TWC and what TWC is built on is like having the dog, believing that the dog is your best friend, believing that the dog is your fellow creature. But I think one of the things that is not necessarily said out loud, but is kind of implied, is understanding who that dog is. And I
Right.
think a lot of times when you see these shelter accounts or these just attempts from shelters to try to get dogs adopted, there's very little about who the dog is. They give you like, has the dog ever bitten anybody? Is the dog good with
Yeah.
cats? Is the dog good? But it's like, hey, how can we actually present a picture where you can actually see who is this dog? Is he cuddly? Is he, playful but competitive? Is he like just presenting the best version of the dog in a way that allows you to see who the dog actually is. Um, and I think that providing the outline for people on how to be able to create that stuff is going to be one of the things that you concentrate on during the workshop.
And you know where you can answer all those questions, if not, well, if not all of them, many of them in play, literally in play. You can find out so much about who a dog is just by playing with them properly. And you get more information so people know what they're getting into. A dog, there are so many dogs that present this crazy package of intense behaviors. They're grabbing sleeves and biting leashes and dragging around on leash. And they'll get sort of labeled as, hey, this is a lot of dog. This is a really intense dog. And then if you take that dog out and you just throw a ball, those problems just, if not diminished, like they'll outright be eliminated sometimes. And maybe this wasn't a really intense dog. And then on the other hand, you'll get a dog that's like super chill and you bring him out to play tug and you find out, no, okay, like he's pretty intense. So using play, it not only does it help the dogs behaviorally, not only does it help them socially, it also gives you a much more clear picture of who the dog is.
Yeah, completely. And I think, one of the interesting things that happens a lot, especially when I was first starting out as a trainer, there's this whole idea of like, oh, don't anthropomorphize dogs, don't put human characteristics to them. But it's like it's the same. And one of the things with TWC is that like all animals operate on the same plane of that they approach things they like and they avoid things that they dislike. And it's a very simple concept, and all animals, not just dogs, not just whatever, it's every animal. And you see the same thing in humans. Like, how many times growing up have you seen a kid where you see their true self come out through playing sports or through playing
Right.
just, whatever in the neighborhood? It's like all of a sudden this kid who was like, shy standing in the corner realizes that he's fast or realizes that he can catch a football really well or whatever it is, turns into this, just like monster on the field and gets confidence and all these things that we talk about with TWC, play, make your dog somebody, creating, this idea of being best friends, being fellow creatures. It really allows you to understand who the dog is, and I think that that's very important, especially when it comes to rescues, to tap into who that is for the dogs. Real quick, just so I can, because I know there's a lot of people already submitting questions asking where the link for the tickets are. We're going to share it here in a second. I know you guys are excited, but let me just move on here to one second. All right. Um, on. All right. Who is the workshop for? So the reason that I kind of put this slide in here is that a lot of people have kind of reached out to me and have been like, "Oh, is it only for shelter employees? Is it only for people with shelters?" So I just kind of want to debunk a little bit about who the workshop is for, and really make people understand that this is not just for shelter employees. It's not just for people interested in working with shelter dogs, but this is going to improve your dog training as a whole. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, on that point about just overall dog training, the parallels between the shelter and my pet dog business are like it's like all the same stuff in concept. And a lot of the mindset, the problem solving, the line of questioning, information gathering, the process is very, very similar. So if I get a phone call from a prospective client with a dog with behavioral issue, it's very comparable to like right now if I got a phone call from the shelter I was working with and a dog there, they got a new dog that bit somebody. Like the the evaluation dealing with, in this case it's not the client but the shelter, the staff, all of those fundamentals still apply the same.
Yeah, and I think, just to kind of get it out there for whatever, whether you're a pet trainer, whether you're a shelter employee, whether you're a shelter volunteer, a mixture of all those things. Um, this workshop will help you because, I mean, for most dog trainers out there, a majority of the clients you're going to get in are dogs that came from these places, that came from a shelter, came from a rescue, came from hoarding cases, came from whatever. Even as simple as somebody who had a dog for 7 years and all of a sudden they decide they don't want the dog and they dump it. And it's like, they're different cases, but this workshop and the stuff that you're going to be sharing is going to kind of allow not only the shelters, the shelter employees, shelter volunteers, encouraging the idea of improving the shelter uh, lifestyle, for lack of better terms, for dogs, but also improving how the skill set of pet dog trainers, and when they encounter these dogs, how can you begin to make progress quickly? Do you want to expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, for sure. I'll have stories of actual cases that I've had recently of dogs that they were shelter lifers and they come out of the shelter just destroyed, just like completely destroyed behaviorally. And we'll go in depth watching footage and all of that and watching the rehab process, but trailing the problems back to the point of origin, like looking at what the dog's doing now back home, what do you think the conditions were back in the shelter? That is a huge part of knowing who the dog is and what they've been through. I mean, similarly, I'm sure a lot of you guys that are trainers, if you get a dog that's been to multiple trainers, you ask, what did previous trainers do with the dog? You want to know what was the strategy, what were the conditions like, what's the dog done? The same exact thing with the shelter for sure. I want to know as much information as possible.
Yeah, and then once you have that information, how do you transfer the information that you have into a productive training plan? Because I think, this a lot of stuff with people, it just kind of, they get very wrapped up in this idea of like, who was the dog and where were they, and were they in whatever meat market dog, were they found under a trailer, were they dumped on the side of the road? They get very wrapped up in the story, but no one ever, I mean, not no one, but people don't think about, okay, how do we move the needle forward now? Because it's like with anything, it's okay, cool that that was your life before, whether it was great or whether it wasn't, that sucks, or it's whatever. But how do we now improve?
Yeah, a dog that I had come out of my program, it's been a couple of months now, a huge change. This German Shepherd named Inga, and you can watch her. I've got a video on YouTube, like the full, it's almost an hour long progression. She was in a shelter for over half of her life, from the age of like 5 months to about a year and a half. And she was kept medicated, anti-anxiety and antidepressant medication. She was kept in a kennel that had blinders up so she couldn't see any of the other dogs. She could just hear them. And when she got adopted, the dog reactivity specifically, but I mean, it's also cars and people. The dog reactivity was so explosive and so, frankly, for people and for a lot of trainers and behaviorists, horrifying to look at. The assumption was that there's some malicious intention behind what she's doing. But if you, again, look back at her conditions where she's living in the shelter, she was totally deprived of the ability to interact or even look and acknowledge another one of her kind, a dog. So that's crucial information. Is this a dog that's born another dog and a half? No. Does it look really scary? Sure, but maybe she just lacks the social skills. And Ivan talks about this all the time. Dogs are innately social beings. So I know that she basically grew up without ever having a friend. And that's something that once we fixed that, it blew the gates open. And addressing her issues was easy.
Yeah, and I think another thing that will be important to touch on is, and this is actually something that Ivan currently has a big, made a big point to talk about this, but this idea of dogs that are medicated unnecessarily. How do we approach those dogs? How do we get them off medication? And more importantly, how does TWC stuff, how does play, how does understanding how to work with the dog and who the dog is help them get off these medications? And once they're off the medications, how do we provide the best life? How do we give future owners the best tools so this dog never has to be on medication again? I think that's going to be, one of the overarching things, because all of this stuff works, together to create one lifestyle for the dog. And the more dogs we can get off medication and becoming who they are meant to be in the world, the better off the world is going to be for dogs. So maybe just talk a little bit about that.
It's sort of a grim reality, I think, of the state of dog behavior, but somewhere, and it's biased because of the nature of the cases that I take on. Probably about 50% of the dogs that I take on in my business, or even in shelters, if it's a behavioral case, they're on some form of medication. And I'll put it this way. If a shelter calls me about a dog and he's reactive or he's fence fighting or whatever, when I ask, what is his daily life like? What was life like before in the shelter? What was life like before the meds? Was anybody playing with this dog? Was anybody taking this dog out on a long line and letting him run? Was anybody really like having him meet other dogs and play? The answer is 0% of the time. Do I get an affirmative on that? Zero, literally zero. So again, back to thinking of the dog's perception. You've got a dog that maybe he's the 7-year-old dog that you're talking about that gets abandoned. He lost his people and now he's in a cell. And we're, for some reason, people assume that this dog is supposed to be a model citizen in these conditions. He starts acting out, and now well, obviously, this is an extreme situation, and now we're scared, and it's a mess. And inevitably, for a lot of these dogs, medication ends up becoming the answer when no other measures were taken.
Yeah, exactly. And I think again, the more we talk, I mean, this is probably the way the workshop's going to go. Is the more we talk, the more we come up with ideas on how to improve things. But I think improving is also by having the purpose of improving, you're also going to be able to prevent that snowball from getting bigger and bigger. Because, like you said, like you come in and you start with like a small problem, and then all of a sudden you're just like, okay, well, I'm just going to ignore this, and I'm going to ignore the fact that they were with someone for 7 years, and I'm going to ignore the fact that they were basically feral for 2 years, and like I'm going to ignore these things because it's a dog and they should just want to be pet and get treats. And all of a sudden, like you said, it snowballs, and then it turns into medication, and then it's just like and then who knows what happens after if the dog gets adopted. Like, it's just, you don't have answers. And I think the more predictability that we can insert into adoptions, the better off shelter and rescue the industry is going to be. But just so I know, like again, like people keep writing in about the link. So let me just go ahead and share more information, and then Dylan and I can keep talking a little bit more about the workshop itself. So let me just pop my screen up because people like visual stuff. All right. All right. So when is the workshop? The workshop is going to be August 1st through the 3rd, 2025. It's going to be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3 days. Typically going to be from about 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. or so each day. On Saturday evening, we'll have a dinner for everybody just to kind of, meet everybody and hang out and have a good time, stuff like that. Um, it should be super, super cool time. Obviously, we're going to have the people in attendance. Today, we're only going to be providing spectator spots. Once we have the spectator spots filled, we'll send out an email in a couple of weeks opening up for working spots. And the reason for that is, number one, we want to make sure that we get everybody in who wants to be a spectator and wants to come learn and improve their knowledge. But number two, we want to give opportunity for shelters to kind of get an idea of what this workshop is. And we do want to provide some working spots for shelters. So today is just going to be spectator spots. So again, it's going to be August 1st through the 3rd, 2025. Where is it going to be? It's going to be in Plant City, Florida. I think sometimes because so many of our TWC certified trainers and so many TWC practitioners attend these calls, it's kind of funny when I have to tell people that it's in Plant City, Florida, because it's like Plant City, Florida has basically become like New York City of dog training for TWC trainers. But it's like such an obvious place. But for people who are not necessarily deep in the TWC community, it is going to be in Plant City, Florida. So the moment that everybody's been waiting for, how do I sign up? So there's only going to be 50 spots available. So this is going to be a very high in demand workshop. Um, I'm not like saying that to be like, like, oh, there's it's going to be very high in demand and whatever. There are 50 spots available. There are 84 people on this call specifically. There are 600 people signed up for the waiting list who are not necessarily on the call today. And then we have exponentially more people in the TWC mailing list that will eventually get the information for this workshop if it does not sell out right away. So I encourage everyone on this call. You guys are the first ones who are going to be getting this link. Once we finish this call and once the replay is made available, then we will open up for everyone who was on the waiting list. And then once we provide the link for the people on the waiting list, we will open it up to everyone on the TWC list. So if you want to attend, the spots are extremely limited. So I just want to make sure that I cover that. I don't want people to miss out if you guys are definitely wanting to come to this. So next thing, I'm going to provide the link. This is the first time I've done it this way. So I want to say two things. Number one, there's going to be a QR code. Number two, there is a link on the screen that's going to come up. The extension at the end is case sensitive. So if you try to type it in all lowercase or all uppercase and it doesn't work, don't panic. Just make sure that you are typing it in the way that it is. So again, only 50 spots available. So here is the link for everyone. You can scan the QR code. You can buy it on your phone. You can take a picture of it with somebody else's phone and then scan it on your phone, however you want to make it work. But if you just want to type it into your computer, it's https://bit.ly/TWC Dylan. TWCD are uppercase and the rest is lowercase. So uppercase T, uppercase W, uppercase C, uppercase D, YLAN. So again, https://bit.ly/TWC Dylan. So again, it is case sensitive. If it doesn't work, just make sure you're typing it the way that you see it on the screen, or you can scan the QR code. So I'll leave this up for another few seconds. Again, we are looking forward to everyone coming to this workshop. It's going to be a super, super fun time, not just for training, not just for knowledge, but anytime that we get together and start talking dogs, it's just always a good time. I'm sure you guys have been following Dylan and you guys have been following other TWC trainers. And you guys, if you guys have not had the opportunity to come to Plant City for a workshop, I'm sure you've heard them talk about how special it is when they get an opportunity to be here and what the mood and the vibe is like when you start working dogs here. So it's a very, very special place. And I'm definitely looking forward to adding some new members to the community through this workshop because I think we're going to reach some people that don't typically look at TWC just because we are reaching out into the shelter world. So we are looking forward to getting this workshop off the ground. And yeah, so I'll go ahead and I'll stop sharing this. I'll share it again at the end of the call just in case. But if you guys are wanting to take a screenshot of this or something, you're more than welcome to, but I'll stop sharing now. And yeah, so maybe Dylan, since I just kind of mentioned that just now, can you just talk a little bit about what the experience is like when you do come to a workshop here in Plant City?
Yeah, it's it's totally, especially from someone in the pet world that doesn't necessarily have a bunch of training partners. Like I don't have a club that I'm going to do sports with and all of that. It's really intense in a good way to be around people that you can tell are committed and actively trying to get better all the time. And people that will question you and offer different ideas. It is the only place where I really get to go and just like I guess this time I'll be talking a lot. I try not to talk because I'm just listening to what everyone's saying, and it's really fun. I love it there for sure.
Okay, guys. So I did not expect things to go this crazy, but there are already 20 spots gone. So if you guys are planning on signing up, um, I would do it like really as quick as possible because
Let's
I
go.
really did not expect it was like 10 seconds and there's
The
20 people already
maniacs. The
signed up.
maniacs are
So
ready. Let's go.
definitely sign up as soon as you can. But yeah, I completely agree. You know, it's I think it just turns into a very cool place when you come down here for several reasons because there is this different feeling about dogs. Like we're not here just trying to get a behavior. We're not here just trying to get a dog to complete something. Like we're literally here to find out who the dog's best self is. And I think that like that's not I mean I worked in a high volume dog training um facility before I came on board with TWC. And I don't remember a single time where it was like, let's find out who this dog is. Let's
Yeah.
find out. And this is not rescues. This is not shelters. This is just like your typical pet training place. And they would take, 10 board and trains at a time and 30 like boards overnight. And not a single time was it considered, hey, who is this dog? It's just like, okay, let's just start food luring and let's just crate and structure and every dog is the same and it just and like I think that that's what makes TWC and the experience here so refreshing is when you come here you're not just doing the typical thing that you've heard about or you've been doing for 2, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. You start learning new things. You remember that dog training is supposed to be fun. You remember that dog training is this like experience between you and a fellow creature. Maybe if you want to just expand on that.
Yeah. The criteria. It almost feels like the criteria for judging training is almost different in a way. There, it's like even watching high level obedience, high level sport training. The first things that we see and we talk about are how the dog feels and how the dog who the dog and the trainer are to each other, and that's doing like high level sport training. And when I think about I started doing very much cookie cutter, sort of like you're talking about, just turning through board and trains. And I've got uh, a miniature golden doodle, and we're practicing down on place for like hours a day. And I'm thinking, man, there was never really, no one even talked about what does the dog feel about this? Is this bringing good things out of him? And we truly do believe, and I for sure, like I'll take this for the rest of my career. The best result comes when it's dealing with the true nature of who the dog is and not fighting against that. And that's something that we take incredibly seriously.
Yeah, and I think like it's always it's almost like you have to provide that disclaimer. Like this isn't just a marketing phrase. This isn't just like we
Right.
don't just say fellow creatures and dogs are our best friend. It's like it literally is the way that we approach things. Like,
And
there was this video, this photo that just came out last week of Ivan with Tarzan after they finished their protection session at the AWDF National Championship, and it's just like Tarzan's just up kissing Ivan on the face, and it's just that's just what it is. It's not. This isn't like a like we do one thing on the side and then our marketing says we do another thing. It's like it literally is like this is how we approach dogs and dogs are friends and dog like and I think that when that is like the core baseline of how you approach training, you can get to such special places once you actually start the training.
Yeah, you're more likely going to TWC headquarters. You're more likely to see a dog sitting on someone's lap eating Doritos than you are a dog like getting screamed at. Like that's just the atmosphere, and it's truly how we treat the dogs. And I do want to add for like anyone that had the thought that I had when I had initially looked at TWC, where the aesthetic is very much IGP Malinois German Shepherd, and that's just because of Ivan's renown and what he does. I will tell you that, in my opinion, this is the ultimate shelter dog methodology. Period. You could rebrand it like this. You could change the male to a German Shepherd mix or a Pit Bull mix, and this is just a shelter dog program.
Yeah, and
And
I think that's just one of the things that people, I mean, it comes with the territory. It's like sometimes it's like you can't really say like, oh, poor Ivan, he won so many national championships. Oh, poor
right.
Ivan, he won world champ. It's like you can't discount that. Like it's a great thing that he's been able to accomplish. But like for me, when like Ivan becomes like when you see that like childlike excitement in Ivan's eyes is when he gets that difficult, shelter case, the difficult rescue case. Like, you're in the expert trainer program. We've been talking about Zeke for a few I don't know, 6 months. And just the amount of excitement that he has with like he talks about Zeke with the level of excitement as he talks about winning a national championship or a world championship or any of these things. Like he's just as excited making progress. Like I think even hearing him talk about Tina in the past, it's like some of these things that he's been able to accomplish with these dogs, and like he'll never get a trophy for Tina. He's never gonna get you know, something on his wall or a certificate or a plaque or whatever. But it's like him being able to know that she is her best self every single day because of the work and effort that he put in, has made him, like fulfills him just as much as any other uh, on the field accomplishment. And I think that that's, a testament to what can be accomplished with TWC and shelter or rescue or even just troubled dogs.
Yeah, it's a shared obsession, I think, with all of us, honestly. And you're right. Like you're not going to get ribbons and trophies for it, but when we sit down and talk about behavioral cases, like even just talking about the little human aggressive chihuahua I have going at a shelter right now, that gets the same amount of intensity, if not more intensity, than talking about high level sport training. Like we are like seriously, it's just we're obsessive with the behavior for sure. And ultimately trying to carve out a future for the dogs like this little chihuahua that most would just say, I mean, I literally I've posted videos of this dog and I've had people say, why are you wasting your time? And I like just go to another dog, like this is over. And I just can't, I will not accept that because I don't think it's true. And I hope from the workshop you guys walk away with that type of energy.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it just, I think it's not even like a hope. It's like, I know, like I've been here long enough. I've been working here since 2019. I mean, yeah, it's over 5 years at this point. So, um, it, I've seen people come here and I see what happens. Like, I'm not concerned with whether people are going to be reinvigorated. Like people are going to come here and they're just like, I just know that it's going to happen. Like I know people are going to come here and they're just going to have this like wave of excitement come over them. Like, oh man, there's this whole world of dog training that has never ever um, been opened up to me. And real quick, just update, guys. There are already 35 spots filled, and we only have 15 spots left. And like, if you are on this call and you're planning on attending, please make sure that you guys get signed up as soon as possible. Let me just put the screen up again real quick, um, just for you guys. Okay. See here, share the screen. So again, you can scan the QR code. or type in https://bit.ly/TWC Dylan. The TWC and D are uppercase. Make sure you type it that way. Um, but yeah, I just know that people are going to come here and know that they're going to experience something very, very special. And I think on top of things being special, um, it's just a cool thing for you specifically. Like you're going to be the first TWC expert trainer that has kind of made the leap from being, somebody who came into the community, someone who became a TWC certified trainer, someone who became a TWC expert trainer that's now really reaching out into the world and teaching some of the things that you're interested in. So I think that it's just a big leap for a lot of things, and it's going to be a very, very cool experience. Um, just want to answer a couple questions here. Um, will you be talking about how to safely have your dog meet other dogs? So Dylan, if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a big part of the evaluation process and a huge metric for adoptability is, does a dog get along with another dog? That is a deal maker or breaker in many situations. So absolutely introducing dogs within the shelter to each other, structuring play and setting dogs up to be compatible. Yeah, we could talk about that all day long for sure.
Cool, cool. Jay Ross asking, I'm trying to buy two spots for my staff. Am I able to get more? I'm not able to get more than one for okay. So if you want to buy additional spots for your staff or whatever, what you need to do is you need to purchase them with their email address. You can only purchase one per email address. So your account will only allow you to purchase one. But if you want to buy stuff for your employees or staff or friends or whatever, you just need to make sure you have their email address and then make the purchase with their account. So Martina, can you briefly describe the format of the workshop? Will it mostly be discussion of prior cases or working spots? We'll do demos on site. So, Martina, we actually just had kind of a discussion amongst all of us the other day, kind of talking about the format. With a lot of TWC workshops, um, we can do literally everything we want to do with creating a format and outline and writing things down and making a schedule. And then once the workshop starts, it can completely be thrown out the window and and we'll just approach things that we need to be approaching on the day of. So I will just overview say that we're going to be talking, having discussions about stuff. There will also be working spots. But there's going to be a combination of both. But it's all going to depend on how people are learning, what the cases are like. Dylan, if you want to kind of expand on that.
Yeah, I think part of that does have to be influenced by the nature of the dogs that are there. Like, are we going to have like legit behavioral cases? Are we going to have dogs that, like, I'm hoping to get some dogs that are like super repressed and agitated and are just like going ballistic in their kennel, because we will play a lot. And I also, regardless of the dogs, I should say, I want to go through just like introductory obedience too. So like if there are dogs that have had literally nothing, dogs that don't even know, like they don't have a name or don't know their name, we'll be going from like square one how I approach those dogs, training them in the shelter, and how I would instruct volunteers and staff to train those dogs. I'll also be coming in with a list of major topics that I want to cover. I definitely want it to be interactive. I want people to be able to ask questions, give examples of things that they've seen. And I'll be coming in as well with some clips and examples of dogs with specific issues, specific scenarios, talking about those cases where those dogs ended up and what we did for them. So it's going to be, I think, like Eric said, a combination of work and discussion.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. I just think it's always funny, like when people ask about how workshops are going to be programmed or formats or anything like this. It's just like it just, especially with
Yeah.
dog, it's like any dog. It's like you can have every idea on the planet written down before you start training a dog, but the second you actually start training, everything can change. So, and I think that that's going to be kind of a cool thing that that is going to be talked about at the workshop is like not having this preconceived notion of what you should do with a dog and actually approaching a dog with the intentions of improving the dog you see in front of you instead of the idea you want to have. Stephanie, would you do a scholarship for shelter staff members and or volunteers? At the moment, we have not talked about that. The only thing we have talked about is reaching out to the local rescue here in Tampa. But that may be something that becomes a possibility that we may open up here in the future. But for the time being, we have not discussed making that widely available or having any type of program for that. That may be something that we do here. And if we do decide to do that, we will notify people via email. Um, let's see here. Paulo, I got mine. Brandon, I got mine. Um, I'm sure if my shelter will let me take a dog from work, can I get a spectator spot and working? So guys, right now we're only offering spectator spots. So anybody who decides to get a spot today, um, will just be a spectator spot. Once we have these spots filled, then we'll open up for working spots and we'll go from there. So today is just going to be spectator spots. So don't worry so much about working spots. And if your shelter does or doesn't let you bring a dog, that's something that can be. There's not going to be so much urgency because, like, as of right now, we have. Let's see here, 40 sales. So there's 10 spots remaining. So these will likely be sold out by the end of the day. So yeah. I like I'm just surprised by that number kind of. So these will
Oh,
be so if you guys are planning on coming, just get your spectator spot. Who else asked the question? Anna, can I put a deposit down to hold my spot? I'm flying from Europe. Anna, the only way to hold your spot is to purchase a ticket. If you're planning on flying from Europe, that's obviously, I understand something you have to plan. But you would have to purchase the ticket in order to lock in your spot. Oh, never mind my question. Purchase. See you there. Cool. So Anna's coming. That's very, very cool. So we're very excited. We know people are coming from all over the world. Allison wrote here, so excited. Got my ticket coming all the way from Malta. See you guys there. So that's going to be a big trip. Always very, very cool to see TWC people come from all over the world. We just had our helper workshop. We had people from the UK. We had people from all over Europe, Australia. Just it's amazing the lengths people will go just to get knowledge about dogs. So very, very exciting. Dylan, before we share the link one more time, do you have any kind of final thoughts about the upcoming workshop? Anything like that?
yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be really fun. For anybody that is interested in my training, like you're going to be seeing the literal. I mean, you see it in my videos too, but like hands-on, literally what I do. And yeah, any dog from just your average overlooked dog that's getting kind of agitated in his kennel to a dog that is like growling and snapping at people during feeding time. Like we're going to be going over how I would address any of those types of situations. And I really do hope that maybe this workshop could sort of be like the tip of the spear to get people activated and wanting to go in and make some changes in places with really vulnerable dogs that need our help.
Yeah, 100%. I completely I'm super excited for this workshop. Like I know it's going to be a good time. There's going to be a lot of TWC people here. There's going to be a lot of new people into the community. Very, very excited. There's some people here on this call that I know from like personal life, from previous work that I've done prior to working for TWC, and they're getting involved in this workshop. So it's just very, very cool, the extended reach that we've kind of been able to make already. And we're definitely looking forward to the workshop to make a little bit more. So just to recap, recap to everybody in case you showed up a little bit late. When is the workshop? It's going to be August 1st through the 3rd, 2025. Where? It's going to be in Plant City, Florida. How do you sign up? Once again, there's only 50 spots available. We've already sold 40, and that was 3, 4 minutes ago. So there might be even less now. But the way to get your ticket is to either scan the QR code that's on the screen currently, or you can type in https://bit.ly/TWC Dylan. The T, W, C, and D are uppercase letters. So make sure you type it that way because the web address is case sensitive. So that's pretty much it for the call today. Thank you guys for coming. I want to make sure everyone who wants a spot gets a spot. And yeah, looking forward to this. Let me just give you guys a final tally before we end the call. We are at 42. So there's 8 spots remaining. So if you guys have friends who are excited to come, they're going to be sold out by the end of the day. I'm pretty sure. So just let's make sure, get everybody signed up who wants to sign up. Everybody who's already signed up, looking forward to seeing you here. Everyone who's making plans and stuff like that, definitely looking forward to have you guys come. Make sure you make your plans and all that stuff. So again, Dylan, thank you for hopping on this call today. And yeah, looking forward to seeing everyone.